Do you think the Bears are ready for the approaching disaster? Picture this, a rival breathing down our necks is hours away from exposing this team's historical shame. First, the defense that gives away yards like they're going out of style faces the one running back who could have been ours, and he's thirsty for revenge. Second, the offense has broken so hard that they've had to hold emergency meetings to try and salvage the season. Do you think Caleb will survive if we keep this up? And that's not the worst. The key player standing between us and disaster is injured, and there's a quarterback killer ready to devour our future. 3 bombs ready to explode at Soldier Field, and no one's talking about how this could bury the season before October. Are you going to risk missing out on the critical details everyone else is missing? Subscribe now, because in 10 minutes when this video ends, you won't be able to save your Bears spirit from despair, like in notifications, or live with the regret of not being prepared for what's coming. The ghost of draft decisions is haunting Chicago in the worst possible way. Ashton Jeanty, that running back all Bears fans desperately wanted in the first round, is about to turn Soldier Field into his playground this Sunday. And you know what's the craziest part? I'll tell you this. Jeanty's stats don't tell the real story. After years of seeing this team suffer against elite runners, from when Dalvin Cook trashed us twice a year, to watching Aaron Jones run all over our defense like it was practice, now we have to face the guy who could have been OURS. Remember when we thought Ryan Poles would do whatever it took to move up and draft him? I think we were all dreaming. Yes, Jeanty only has 104 yards in 3 games. But here's the detail that should terrify you. Each of those yards has been gained after the first contact. Do you understand what this means? This kid is running behind a terrible Raiders offensive line and still producing. It's like he's been running with his hands tied for 3 weeks, waiting for this exact moment. And do you want to know why this worries me? Pro Football Focus reported something that should keep Matt Eberflus up at night. The Bears are the worst team in the NFL at stopping runs before the first contact. You're crazy if you think this is a coincidence. Chicago has allowed 178 rushing yards before first contact, more than any other team in the league. I'll ask you this. Do you think Alan Williams, our defensive coordinator, has a plan to stop a runner who's been doing magic without space? I think this Sunday Jeanty will have more room than he's had in his entire professional career. While the Packers have a defense that ranks 8th against the run, we're at 26. While the Vikings have improved their front 7 with new acquisitions, we still have the same structural problems. The stats don't lie. Chicago Bears, we're allowing 5.5 yards per carry, which is almost the worst average in the league. Do you know what that means against a runner like Jeanty? It means every time he touches the ball, he'll have the best opportunities of his rookie season to show why the Raiders picked him 6th overall. And you know what bothers me more? That we could have had him. Ryan Poles had the picks, the chance to trade up, but decided to stay put and take Colston Loveland. Now don't get me wrong, Loveland is a good tight end. But do you think a tight end will win us more games than an elite runner? I tell you, Poles will be questioning that decision for years if Jeanty explodes against us. Because here's the reality no one wants to admit. Our run defense hasn't improved at all since last season. The same gap integrity problems. The same issues with linebackers arriving late to the point of attack. The same inability of our front 7 to maintain their assignments. Do you think that will magically change against a runner who's been waiting for this type of opportunity? That's what drives me crazy. Jeanty will enter Soldier Field knowing this is his golden opportunity. 3 weeks running against defenses that have been hitting him at the line of scrimmage. And now he comes against a defense that's giving away yards before contact. It's like the schedule has perfectly aligned against him. But if that makes you nervous, wait till you hear this. For the first time all season, the Bears offense did something that reveals how bad things really are. Ben Johnson just confessed that they had to gather the entire offense to watch film together, because the running game is so disconnected they needed a group intervention. Can you believe this? In the 4th week of the season, they're having emergency meetings. After years of suffering with Matt Nagy and his inability to establish a consistent running game. After promising us this new administration was going to be different. Here we are again with fundamental problems in the run game, and you know what this tells me. I'll tell you there are serious communication problems on that offensive line. D'Andre Swift is averaging only 3.5 yards per carry, which is worse than the 3.8 he had in his awful year with Detroit. And that was already bad. Jonah Jackson, who was supposed to be our solution at guard, admits that it's the little things that are failing, but I'll ask you this. When in the history of American football have the little things required group meetings? In the 4th week of the season, never. Because when you have to gather the whole offense to watch film after 3 games, they're not little things, they're fundamental roster building problems. Look at the real stats, not the ones they want to sell us. We have 340 rushing yards in 3 games, but 97 of those are from Caleb Williams scrambles. That means our running backs have really produced less than 150 yards in 3 games. You're crazy if you think that's acceptable in modern NFL. Johnson says he's seeing how close they are to everything working. But do you think 3 to 4 games is an acceptable timeline for an offensive line to gel? I think it's an admission that the construction of this line wasn't right from the start. While the Lions have a line that runs like clockwork from day one, while the Vikings integrate new players without these problems, we're still waiting for chemistry to appear magically, and you know what's most frustrating? That Ryan Poles spent significant capital on this offensive line. Nate Davis was an expensive signing that hasn't delivered. Cody Whitehair's departure created a hole we haven't filled adequately. And now they need group film sessions to understand basic blocking schemes. D'Andre Swift, who was supposed to be our backfield solution, is running worse here than in Detroit. In Detroit, a team that has traditionally struggled to establish the run. But now he comes to Chicago and suddenly it's worse. Don't you see the pattern here? I'll tell you this. The problem isn't with the individual players, the problem is systematic. When you have to hold group meetings for guards to understand their combo blocks, when you have to explain gap responsibilities in the 4th week, when your star running back is averaging less than 4 yards per carry, the problem is coaching and scheme. And what happens if this group meeting doesn't work? What if Swift continues to average less than 4 yards per carry? Then all the pressure is going to fall on Caleb Williams to carry this offense alone. A rookie quarterback carrying an offense because they can't establish balance. Where have we seen this movie before? With Mitch Trubisky? With Justin Fields? The reality is Ben Johnson has to make this line work. And he has to do it now, because if they can't establish a consistent running game, if they can't protect Caleb effectively, if they can't open holes for Swift, then all the draft picks in the world won't matter. This offense is going to be another failed project on Chicago's long list of offensive frustrations. And when you thought we were done, here comes the really terrifying part. Darnell Wright, our starting right tackle, has missed practice for 2 straight days with an elbow injury. And guess who they play this Sunday? Max Crosby, one of the most dominant pass rushers in all of the NFL. After all we've suffered with quarterback protection in this city, after watching Khalil Mack destroy quarterbacks when he was on the other side, after years of seeing our offensive line collapse at the most crucial moments, now we have to face the possibility of putting a rookie or a player without experience against one of the league's best edge rushers. Do you understand the magnitude of this potential disaster? Wright isn't just our starting right tackle. He's the only reason Caleb Williams wasn't sacked last week against Dallas. And now he might be out just when we need all the protection possible if Wright can't play. The options are absolutely terrifying. Theo Benedette, an undrafted player from the University of British Columbia who has exactly 27 offensive snaps in his entire NFL career. Or Ozzie Trapilo, our second-round pick who has been inactive the last 2 weeks, supposedly because he's not ready to contribute. I'll ask you this. In what world is it acceptable that your contingency plan to protect your franchise rookie quarterback is a player with less than 30 professional snaps? In what universe does that make sense? While the Packers have depth in their offensive line, while the Lions can rotate tackles without losing effectiveness, we're here crossing our fingers and praying. And you know what's most frustrating about all this? That Trapilo, who was specifically selected to be our tackle of the future, hasn't been able to gain the coaching staff's trust in for weeks. Johnson says there's a point this season when he'll play for us. But is that point going to be against Max Crosby in a divisional game we need to win? Max Crosby isn't just any pass rusher. This guy had 14.5 sacks last season, has dismantled much better offensive lines than ours, and has a motor that doesn't stop in 4 quarters. Do you think Benedette, with his limited experience, can handle Crosby's speed, power, and moves? I think they're going to have to constantly send help from the right side. But here's the problem. If you send constant help for Crosby, what happens with the rest of the Raiders' defense? What happens when you have to use tight ends and running backs to chip block constantly? Your passing game becomes completely limited. Caleb Williams will have fewer options, less time, fewer chances to make the plays we need. I'll tell you this. This situation exposes everything wrong with our draft and roster construction decisions. Poles used a second-round pick on a tackle who isn't ready to play just when we need him the most, while teams like Baltimore and Pittsburgh are using late picks to find immediate contributors who can come in and produce from day one. Do you remember when we had Kyle Long protecting the right side? Do you remember when our offensive line was a strength and not a constant concern? Now here we are, in 2025, still worrying about whether we have 5 competent players to protect our quarterback. The reality is that if Wright can't play, they'll have to completely redesign the offensive game plan. They'll have to use more quick passes, more screens, more rollouts to get Caleb out of the pocket. Basically, they'll have to limit themselves offensively because they don't have the necessary depth at such a critical position. And do you think Caleb Williams can survive Crosby with protection from players who barely know the system? Because I'll tell you this, if we lose our franchise quarterback because we don't have ready tackles to play, this season is going to turn into a nightmare that will haunt us for years. Do you think Jeanty will have his explosive game against our defense this Sunday? Especially considering we're the worst in the league at stopping the run before first contact. Do you think these group meetings for the offense will solve the fundamental problems of the running game? Or do they reveal deeper roster construction issues? And what do you think about having to rely on inexperienced players to protect Caleb Williams against one of the top pass rushers in the league? I need you to tell me in the comments, are you as worried about this game against the Raiders as I am? Because after analyzing these 3 situations, I think this Sunday might be the game that decides if this season goes upward or turns into another disappointment in Chicago. If you want to stay updated on every move, every decision, and every exclusive analysis of the Bears, you need to subscribe to this channel right now, because this community we've built is more than a channel. We're a family that lives and breathes navy blue and orange. We need to be united to celebrate victories and survive defeats. Give a like if you think Poles should have done whatever it took to draft Jeanty. Subscribe if you believe these offensive problems go beyond simple adjustments. And let me know in the comments if you trust Benedette or Trapilo to contain Max Crosby. See you in the next video with more exclusive analysis of everything happening at Hollis Hall. Bear down, Chicago!